There's a new skinny being talked about because you might be seeing more women sharing their thigh gaps, flat stomachs, overall this desire to be skinny. This isn't new though, you guys, because if we look at the cycles of women body trends over time, we go through these seasons of women wanting to be either super slender and skinny, more muscular, more curvy, or somewhere in between. But today I want to talk about what is actually causing this current skinny trend and the impact it might have on longevity and women's health. And it's not going to be what you think it is. This skinny trend is caused by more than just Hollywood actresses and celebrities, but in fact, it's something that our medical industry is pushing more and more of, GLPs. So stay tuned as I discuss what's going on in the marketplace today, how this is impacting not just women from a physical standpoint, but also an emotional and long-term vitality standpoint. If you haven't checked out my channel before, I talk a lot about women's health, especially those who are into aesthetics or bodybuilding. I might be dating myself as I'm 33 years old, but when I used to think about skinny, it was juice cleanses and skinny jeans, and not to mention the fabulous low-fat diets. But nowadays, skinny is relating to something that women are getting from their doctors or underground, peptide injections and GLPs to help expedite the fat loss process or weight loss process. Think semaglutide, tirzepatide, retatrutide, Wegovy, Ozempic. Maybe you've heard of one of those. TikTok itself has billions of views of the hashtag Ozempic body. This is evidence that now body image has become medical and not just plastic surgery. But here's the thing, girls. Weight loss does not always equal health. And to really understand what I mean by that, I want to dive into how these medications actually work. So GLP-1, which is the original, stands for glucagon-like peptide 1. And it's a hormone that is naturally produced in our gut when we eat. So I want to start with that preface. Drugs like semaglutide, tirzepatide mimic this activity. So it's helping your body to feel like it is full, satiated. And it's also impacting the pancreas, the release of insulin, which is why it is often and was medically started prescribed to obese, overweight patients to help them reduce this extra pumping of insulin that's causing insulin resistance, diabetes. In clinical trials, people lose 15 to 20% of their body weight. And like I said, it originally started for extreme weight loss patients, but it has now expanded way beyond that. We see women who are experiencing PCOS using this to heal and reverse their PCOS. Menopause-related weight gain, as well as those just experiencing insulin resistance from day-to-day stress. That all sounds great, I know. And I have another video where I talk about my experience using semaglutide myself. But what is the underlying thing we aren't discussing right now? Rapid weight loss does not just mean fat loss. It can also mean muscle loss. In clinical data, we see 25 to 40% of total weight loss when using Ps can come from lean body mass, which means our muscle. For women, this is especially concerning. After the age of 30, we naturally lose 3 to 8% per decade of our muscle mass. And once we hit menopause, that rate just keeps climbing. For those that don't understand, muscle is a metabolic engine. I know for myself, from 10 years of competitive lifting, the more muscle I carry on my physique, the more calories I can consume without extra weight gain and maintaining a caloric intake that isn't hard to hit. I don't have extra hunger. I don't have to stuff myself to feel full because my body has become used to calories that I'm eating. And then if I want to lose weight, it becomes easier, especially if my gut and hormone health are in a good spot, because my metabolism has been taken care of for several years. But when we have less muscle, that can mean we have a slowed metabolism. Not only that, we can have higher risks of injuries from our falls, fractures, or frailty in later life. You might be hearing more women talking about osteoporosis, especially if we don't have extra muscle mass to help protect the bone health, or if we're not eating a well-balanced diet, that can affect that as well. So in short, even if you lose weight, you might be harming your metabolism and your long-term health. Thankfully, doctors are now focusing on body composition, not just body weight. And I really can't wait for them to get rid of the BMI also. So if you've experienced that where your BMI says you're overweight and you're completely healthy, comment down below and let me know. So what are the main parameters if you are going to use a GLP? Which I'm not saying not to, but I just want to educate on this. The main thing you need to do, number one, eat enough protein in your diet. So you're going to want to hit 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of your body weight. I know for myself, I'm trying to hit about 130 grams of protein per day. And the second rule, if you're taking GLP, is to make sure you weight train at least 2 days per week. Weight resistance training is super important for maintaining that muscle mass. And we know from studies, you don't technically lose muscle mass. Now, we know from studies without the use of GLPs that it's hard to lose muscle mass unless you are not training for about 3 to 6 months. That is without the use of these medications. So we know that these medications may expedite the process from several case studies and people we've talked to ourselves. Some other things to consider if you are going to use these peptide therapies is tracking things beyond just your calories. You need to know what foods you're eating. How many steps are you doing in a day? And what fundamentals of a healthy lifestyle do you have implemented right now? Just because you're taking a shot once a week doesn't mean that you're going to magically get healthier. You might drop weight, but if you're not slowly integrating new healthy habits while doing this, if you ever came off, what's going to happen? You're going to have a rebound effect. You should ideally plan for a maintenance because you don't want to have to be on a drug forever. At least that's how I live my life. Figure out what works for you, how you can strengthen your body and not just become skinnier, and continue to work on your mindset. I know that's a big thing a lot of women struggle with is having this self-worth and love for themselves through all phases in their bodies. And once you can overcome some of those limiting beliefs or possibly traumas from your past and your childhood, you can then take those steps to love yourself through all the development and all the phases. Remember, GLPs are tools. They lower appetite, but they do not teach movement or nutrition. That is still up to you. So what we're witnessing right now is a new trend in diet culture. It was skinny by willpower originally, and now it's skinny by science. But women's health and our physiques is not about shrinking. Honestly, we want to take up space, ladies, and show all the hard work that we've been putting into our bodies to have a healthy, strong body that represents who we are. And I believe the conversation needs to shift to longevity and vitality. Because at the end of the day, this is also about healthy aging. And we don't want to look like we've been on a medication for 20 to 30 years. And we want to look like we have taken care of ourselves over the past several decades. And how can we do that? Having healthy muscles, balanced hormones, steady energy, and confidence that comes from functionality and not necessarily our body weight. So no question, peptides like GLPs are very powerful, and the medical industry keeps getting more advanced. But losing weight fast can actually mean losing what keeps us alive, mobile, and vibrant. So before you chase skinny, ask yourself, do I want to be smaller or do I want to be stronger? Remember, muscle is medicine and health is power.